Have you ever had a butterfly land on you? Not fly past you, not land nearby, actually land on you. Your hand, your shoulder, your arm. For a few seconds, everything seems to slow down. You stop moving, you stop speaking, and somehow a tiny creature that could have landed almost anywhere chooses you. At least that's how it feels. Many people remember these moments for years. They remember the colours, the weather, the exact place where it happened. And most of all, they remember how it made them feel. Because when a butterfly lands on you, it rarely feels ordinary. It feels personal, almost meaningful. But why? Why do these encounters affect us so deeply? And why do butterflies sometimes seem drawn to certain people? Scientists have spent decades studying butterfly behaviour, and while some of the answers are surprisingly practical, others reveal something much more fascinating. Because perhaps the most interesting part isn't the butterfly itself. Perhaps it's what these tiny encounters awaken inside us. And to understand that, we first need to see the world through a butterfly's eyes. When humans look at a garden, we see flowers, colours, shapes, movement. A butterfly sees something completely different. Their eyes are among the most remarkable in the animal kingdom. They could detect wavelengths of light that are invisible to us, including ultraviolet patterns hidden within flowers. To a butterfly, the world is filled with signals that humans never notice. What appears ordinary to us may appear bright and vibrant to them. A flower that looks simple to human eyes may glow with patterns that act like landing lights for a butterfly, guiding them exactly where to go. And this raises an interesting possibility. If butterflies see the world differently, could they also be noticing things about us that we don't notice ourselves? The answer is yes, in ways that are both scientific and surprisingly beautiful, because butterflies aren't simply drifting through the world at random. They're constantly searching for food, for minerals, for warmth, for safe places to rest. And sometimes, without realizing it, humans become part of that search. One of the most surprising facts about butterflies is that they don't experience the world the way we do. To us, a person is a face, a voice, a personality. To a butterfly, a person is something very different, a collection of colours, scents, temperatures, movements, and signals. Many butterflies are attracted to minerals that humans naturally release through their skin. Tiny traces of sodium and other nutrients, things we never think about, things we can't even see. Yet to a butterfly, those signals can be incredibly important. This is one reason butterflies sometimes land on hands, arms, shoulders, even clothing. They're investigating, exploring, searching for something useful. But that still doesn't explain why these encounters often feel so intentional. Because when a butterfly lands on you, it doesn't feel like an insect collecting minerals. It feels like something else. Something more personal, and perhaps part of that feeling comes from what happens next. Because unlike many insects, butterflies are delicate, vulnerable, fragile. A sudden movement can send them flying away instantly, yet sometimes they stay for several seconds, sometimes even minutes. And that's when people begin asking a fascinating question. Why didn't it leave? Imagine being a butterfly. The world around you is enormous. Every shadow could be a threat. every movement could mean danger. Survival depends on caution. That's why butterflies are incredibly sensitive to motion. Quick movements often scare them away. Sudden gestures trigger their instinct to escape. But calmness creates a different response. When someone remains still, patient, gentle, non-threatening, a butterfly may feel comfortable enough to stay. And perhaps that's why so many people describe these encounters in similar ways. They weren't chasing the butterfly. They weren't trying to catch it. In fact, many say the moment happened when they slowed down, when they paused, when they simply existed in the moment. And maybe that's part of what makes these encounters feel so magical. For a brief moment, both human and butterfly stop rushing. The world becomes quiet, and something beautiful happens, not because the butterfly understands who we are, but because for a few seconds, two completely different lives share the same space. And perhaps that's where the real mystery begins. Because if their explanation were purely scientific, why do these moments stay in our memories for so long? Why do people remember them years later? Why do they feel meaningful? To answer that, we need to look beyond the butterfly itself and examine something much closer to home: ourselves. Think about it for a moment. A butterfly may only stay on your hand for a few seconds, sometimes less than a minute, yet years later, you still remember it. Why? After all, people experience thousands of moments every day. Most of them disappear almost immediately, but certain moments remain. A particular sunset, a certain song, a meaningful conversation, and sometimes a butterfly landing on your shoulder. Perhaps what makes these encounters memorable isn't the butterfly itself. Perhaps it's what the moment represents. For a brief instant, something wild chooses to come close. Not because it was forced, not because it was trapped, but because it simply happened. And that feels rare, especially in a world that moves so fast. A world filled with notifications, deadlines, distractions, constant noise. A butterfly doesn't care about any of that. It isn't impressed by success. It doesn't know who we are. It doesn't know our worries, our plans, or our problems. Yet for a few seconds, it becomes part of our story. And perhaps that's why these encounters feel so meaningful, because they pull us out of our thoughts and place us back into the present moment. A moment that cannot be repeated, a moment that exists only once. And maybe that's something many people are secretly searching for. Not answers, not explanations, just a moment that feels real, a moment that makes them stop, look around, and appreciate the world they're living in. But perhaps the most surprising discovery is this: the butterfly may not remember the encounter, yet we often do, and sometimes for the rest of our lives. When people talk about a butterfly landing on them, they often use the same words. It chose me. Of course, scientifically speaking, that's probably not what's happening. The butterfly may have been attracted by warmth, by colour, by scent, by minerals, or simply by chance. But emotionally, the experience feels very different, because humans are storytellers. We naturally search for meaning, patterns, connections. And when something beautiful happens unexpectedly, we remember it. Not because we fully understand it, but because of how it made us feel. For a brief moment, the world seemed gentler, quieter, more connected. And maybe that's why people smile when they talk about these encounters years later. The butterfly wasn't important because it landed on them. The butterfly was important because it made them feel something: wonder, curiosity, peace, joy. And in a strange way, those feelings can matter more than the explanation itself, because while science can tell us how something happened, it doesn't always explain why it touched us. And perhaps that's where the real beauty of these encounters lives. Not in the butterfly, but in the emotions it awakens. Perhaps butterflies aren't choosing people in the way we imagine. Perhaps they're simply responding to signals, colours, scents, warmth, stillness, the natural instincts that guide their lives. But maybe that's not why these moments matter. Maybe they matter because for a few seconds they remind us of something we often forget: to slow down, to notice, to be present, to appreciate small moments before they disappear. After all, butterflies don't live very long. Some survive for only a few weeks. Yet despite their brief lives, they leave lasting impressions. And perhaps there's something beautiful about that. A tiny creature, a fleeting moment, a memory that lasts for years. Maybe that's why people never forget the butterfly that landed on them. Not because it was magical, not because it carried a secret message, but because for a brief moment it reminded them that the world is still full of wonder. And perhaps that's something worth remembering. The next time a butterfly lands near you, pause for a moment, look closely, appreciate it. Not because it chose you, but because for a few seconds your paths crossed, and sometimes the smallest encounters leave the biggest memories. If a butterfly has ever landed on you, tell us about it in the comments. We'd love to hear your story. And if you're fascinated by the extraordinary connection between humans and the animal world, subscribe to The Animal Connection. Because some of life's most meaningful moments arrive on the lightest wings.